The following audio may contain the personal testimonials of some OPTAVIA coaches or clients of OPTAVIA. The results relayed in these messages are based on the unique experiences of the participants, and we cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. While you may be inspired by these accounts, please note that any stories of success have not been verified and your individual path to optimal health will vary. As always, it is our recommendation that you consult with a healthcare provider before starting a weight loss program. Yours in health, the OPTAVIA team.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Habits of Health webinar and podcast. I'm Amber Smithson, certified OPTAVIA coach, and so happy to have you joining us. If you're joining us live, welcome. If you are watching playback on our YouTube channel or our podcast, we're so glad that you're taking the time this week to spend a few minutes with us. Go ahead if you're on live and find your chat feature. You're going to want to use that tonight. So you might have to tap your screen if you're on your phone or hover your mouse at the bottom of your screen if you're on your computer. And just give a shout out in the chat and let us know where you are coming from. And we are just so excited to have you. So this call is a fun one because we have so many different types of people who join us. So we have people who are health coaches or who are OPTAVIA coaches. We have people who are health professionals. We also have clients of OPTAVIA who hop on these calls. But some of you are just checking us out. You're saying, what's this OPTAVIA community all about? And so whoever you are, we're glad that you're here. And you may hear questions or answers tonight from all kinds of different phases of our health program. It may be somebody who's in a weight loss phase, or someone who's transitioning, or optimization phase. You're really wanting to step your game up to the next level. So make sure that you connect with your personal OPTAVIA coach if you have any questions about anything that's said on our call tonight. So tonight we have a special treat for you. We have with us Dr. A himself, author of The Habits of Health, which this call is called the Habits of Health call. And we're going to be doing some Q&A tonight. But before we get to the Q&A, I just want Dr. A to take a minute and give a shout out and say hello to everybody who's listening.
That's great, Amber. Thank you. And thank you for all the work you do and everyone tonight that's going to help with this. You know, our mission is to get America and very shortly the world healthy. And that starts with each individual. You know, one of the neat things is I left critical care 17 years ago and helped pioneer that specialty was to move upstream. And people don't want more surgery. They don't want more medicines. They don't want more hospitalizations. They want to thrive. And as you mentioned, some people are here tonight because maybe they gained a little extra weight over Thanksgiving or just in general haven't been able to get as healthy as they'd like to be, or maybe they're not sleeping well or not handling stress well. It doesn't really matter why you're here. What we're about is meeting you where you are, awakening you to the potential, and then putting you into a system that allows you to change your health and change your life. And, you know, one of the great things for me is people ask me, well, you were a hospital-based doctor. Don't you miss that? Absolutely not. Now I get to help tens of thousands of people. And tonight, if you're listening to learn more about whether it's becoming one of our coaches or if you want to learn more about being a client or a patient, that's what we're here for. And I'm going to hear, it's one of my favorite times, and we really enjoy it because it's an opportunity for me to answer questions. And what that does for me, every time I hear you guys reach out, it helps me know more about what we need to focus on, what helps you change and create lifelong transformation, one healthy habit at a time. So Amber, I'm excited.
Awesome, Dr. A. And I know that my husband Jared and I are some of the people whose lives have changed so much because of you leaving critical care and starting this awesome company. So just a shout out to you. Okay, so we want to get right into it. We want to give Dr. A some questions so that he can answer real time. So what you're going to want to do is find the Q&A feature on the either the Zoom, either your app on your phone or on your computer, and that is where you're going to ask your questions in the Q&A. If you're asking it in the actual chat feature, you're going to want to move over and ask your question in the Q&A section. So one of the questions, this one, it hasn't come in quite yet, but I asked earlier in one of our Facebook support groups, if anyone had any questions for Dr. A, who couldn't be on tonight. And one of the questions was, Dr. A, I love this program. I am enjoying the results that I'm seeing, but what happens if after I reach my goal weight, if I am using fuelings, will that really be able to be something that is long-term and sustainable? So that question comes from Nancy.
Yeah, that's a great question, Nancy. And one of the important pieces in the original Habits of Health system, the book and the companion guide, we spend time on two fundamental ways to reach a healthy weight. One of those is with our fuelings using the 5 and 1 or the 4 and 2 or the 3 and 3, depending on where you are, and you'll sit down with your coach and learn more about that. The other way is to actually do it all on your own. And we actually, specifically with that end in mind, I created Dr. A's healthy eating system, which has a portion control plate, teaches you plate and portion control, teaches to choose from the lean and green charts, which outline all the healthy choices in terms of low glycemic, which means they're not going to stimulate your blood sugar. They're going to keep you healthy, keep your metabolic switches turned off. And then the third part is we look in terms of meats and poultry and all those things about what's healthy, what's not healthy. And so with that end in mind, why most people choose the fuelings, because it's easier to get started. And also, you might have a very busy life and it's hard to focus and get a full-time PhD in nutrition. So instead what we do is we start you off slow. Can you eat every 3 hours? That's really the only thing you need to know. And then you'll have one healthy meal, usually with your family, and that's a lean and green meal where you learn to make great protein choices, whether you're vegetarian, doesn't really matter. We teach you that. And then also healthy vegetables or a salad. So we start off very slow, but the idea is over time to teach you to eat healthy, whether you go out to eat at a restaurant or whether you go to the grocery store. So the end in mind is we take the easier way to start, and as you're losing weight, it creates the teachable moment. You feel better, you have more energy, and you have more self-efficacy, and you want to work on it more, and you want to learn more. And so we have our coach, we have the system, the OPTAVIA community, we have the Habits Health system, and we have these amazing products that help accelerate that process.
I love that. There's another question here that I love that just came in on the Q&A. And this comes from Emily. And Emily wants to know, what are your best suggestions for those that struggle with transition and moving forward to optimal health from the weight loss phase?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, it's important to realize, and actually with the next quarter, we'll be releasing the new Habits Health Transformational System, where we're really becoming a full system with an app. You'll have a life book where you'll write the next year of your life as you're building your new optimal health life. And you'll also have the book, which will be your reference, which covers everything. So you don't have to go to your People magazine to get information anymore, or go to your doctor as far as in terms of health. Everything will be given to you in one place in one system. But the idea is to understand there are 6 macro habits. There's actually 6 categories that are all important. And we create this analogy of a mason jar, putting the big rocks in, and the big rocks are these 6 macro habits. It's learning how to manage your weight. It's learning how to eat healthy and to hydrate yourself properly. It's learning how to move more. It's learning how to sleep better and really pay attention to your energy level throughout the day. It's about a healthy mind. It's about healthy surroundings. So while you're on the program, as you really get into the Habits Health, which is what Amber and the team does here, is it offers you in baby steps to start learning about all these key factors, so that unlike previously when you went on a diet and you always, you'd restrict what you were eating for a period of time, and then you go back and do what you did before. In this, we're creating transformation in your health and in your well-being, and we're doing it one healthy habit at a time. So by the time, the only thing that creates sustainable change is to change your habits. But many of these things, like eating every 3 hours, we're going to teach you that right from the beginning. So by the time you're ready to transition, you'll now have the surrounding support structure of your coach, the OPTAVIA community. You'll now be really diving into the Habits Health system, so you'll have that to help you. And very shortly, the beginning of next year, by no later than the end of February, you'll have your own news story to write for the next year. So you're going to have all kinds of support pieces. And as we answered in the last question, during the period while you're losing the weight, we're teaching you how to create portion control, just like the fuelings, by having your 9-inch plate and having the charts, and you'll be able to do that like a pro by the time you reach that healthy weight. And the other part is, because what you'll do is you'll adjust as you drop some of the prepackaged fuelings and you add more food, We'll calculate what the proper number is, and then we'll monitor that every week, and then we'll make the adjustments. So it's not like you're going, boom, off the system. You're using the system. You're using our healthy eating system. You have the same support you had before. You now have all the key habits that are now developing, and you're going to be in really great shape to be successful.
I agree, Dr. A. And one thing that I love is that we can still fall back on those fuelings sometimes when life is so crazy busy. I know I have 3 kids in club volleyball, and you got to have that easy stuff.
Oh, gosh, yes. And, and I travel a lot. And, on the plane where I live in Annapolis, I go out of Baltimore. And Southwest is the cattle car, but basically it's the best airline to get where you need to go. And they always come around with all the high fructose corn syrup and the refined, basically flour and sugars. And I just say, no, thank you. Let me have a sparkling water, and then I go into my satchel, boom, pull out one of the fuelings, and I'm taken care of. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, here's a great question from Kay. How does the probiotic and the fuelings work, and what are the benefits of it?
Well, that's a great question, and we know probiotics are important. All probiotics are not the same. We make sure we actually use a Gannon probiotic that actually has all the clinical studies with it. So ours isn't just one we picked up on the street somewhere. It's actually there's an article in the New England Journal of Medicine today talking about probiotics and the efficacy and the safety. And that's why you want to use number one, that scientifically has evidence-based, that's been studied and proven. So that's number one. Ours has got all the science, all the studies behind it. The second thing, which is really cool, while you're using the fuelings, which basically aren't real food, they come from real food, but they're not real food. They're not alive. So what we're doing is we're actually, with every one of your fuelings, you're getting live cultures that help keep your gut healthy. And we know that what we call the biome, the microbiome, is this area that has over 1 trillion bacteria in it. And those bacteria are very important to maintain great health. They help with digestion. They help break down the proteins and break down the carbohydrates, break down the fats, and all those things put you in position, and they're working with you. And we know that when someone is really unhealthy and doesn't have good microbacteria in their gut, they're not going to be as healthy. So what's neat about ours, you're getting them throughout the day versus just taking a pill in the morning or in the evening.
I know I personally have seen a lot of benefits from that added probiotic because I don't remember to take pills.
Yeah, and that's right. The whole idea of OPTAVIA, the whole idea of the Habits of Health is to create micro habits. In little baby steps, we want to do everything that's necessary to move you forward, to create self-efficacy that gets you better over time. So you could say, well, I'd rather eat a whole food. Yeah, but then you may be eating whole food, but if you're 50 pounds overweight, you're not very healthy, even though you're eating whole food. So what we do is say, okay, in the beginning, let's focus on these habits. Let's have you eat every 3 hours. Let's start with the fuelings. Let's get that 50 pounds off you. At the same time, we're eating to make sure that moving forward, the whole foods you're eating are the ones that are healthy. Because not all whole food, if you're eating a whole food that's got way too many calories or too many fat calories in it, it doesn't fit well. So we need to make sure we're balancing all those things.
That's such a good point. So that you were talking about the fat, and that I saw a question in here from Deborah, and she wanted to know, how important is it to make sure you get your healthy fats? Because she was worried that fat would not help you lose weight, that it would make you fat.
Well, the equation energy in, energy out does matter. And even though some people would like to say it's all about metabolic, it's not. Fat does have 9 calories, and you do have to be cautious with it. So if you actually look, during our 5 and 1, we actually have balanced protein and carbohydrate and low fat. What we have you do specifically is the fats you put in are the healthy fats. Olive oil is about the closest natural ingredient to medicine. It has olecanthal. It has all these amazing phenolic compounds in it. If you're Italian, if you've got some Italians out there, there's nothing like eating food with it. What I've done is, I used to, because, this is all a process we're all learning. And from the first to the second Habits of Health, the one that's coming out, one of the things I realized that even the low-fat dressings, they have soybean oil in them. And you think, well, soy is healthy. Yeah, but the oil has a lot of omega-6 in it. And what happens is, if you look at the ingredients in processed food, there's so much soybean oil. And what happens is the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 gets way, way too high. In nature, 10,000 years ago, it was about 1 to 1. And we need to have both. but now all that soybean oil. So what I do is every day now, and it tastes so much better, I get a really high extra virgin olive oil. I drizzle just a little bit on my salad and then just take some vinegar and put it on together, and the taste is incredible. Things just explode because it's so natural and it's all that antioxidant. So yes, you want to have monosaturated. What we've learned is obviously trans fats are terrible for us, and then these polysaturated fats are bad for us. So what we want to do is, and when you have things that have fat in them, like nuts, you have to take just a small amount, less than a small handful. You can't eat it, and you can't say, well, nuts are healthy, and then eat a whole big Planters thing of peanuts and think that you did something good for yourself. Because yes, a few nuts have amazing properties. They have lots of fiber. They've got all kinds of B vitamins and all these things you want, lots of minerals, but if you have too many of them. So yeah, you do have to be cautious, not have too much, but fat doesn't make you fat. Bottom line, just like sugar doesn't make you fat, what makes you fat is when you take things that are out of their natural construct, when it becomes ultra processed. So if you take sugar beets and eat them, you're okay. Bottom line, if you have a whole wheat bread, it's okay. But when you have Wonder Bread, and Wonder Bread, and when I grew up on it as a little kid with the little balloons and stuff, but that is basically just pure refined flour, and it raises your glycemic, your blood glucose, raises your insulin, and that's why 70 million Americans have hyperinsulinemia, and because of that, that's why they're bloated, why they don't feel well, why they don't sleep well, why their blood pressure's up, why they're pre-diabetic, why everything is going downhill with them. And as soon as they go on the program, because we use only low glycemic carbohydrates and balanced complex proteins together, that's why you start feeling better almost immediately, and you start diuresing, you lose all this water weight, because all that is there because your insulin level's too high. And what it does is it blocks your leptin, and leptin's the thing that tells whether we're full or not. Now, I had to do a little bit of medical stuff just so you know how smart I am.
I love that, Dr. A. And when you're talking about nuts, when you get those packages of like so much Tupperware and they have that little tiny one and you go, what the heck am I going to put in that? That's right. For nuts.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's cool. You look great tonight, by the way.
Oh, thank you. This is my webinar lipstick. It always makes me look.
Well, whatever it is, man, it's working.
Oh, you're so sweet. Okay, so the next question is from Claire. And Claire said, for visual and audio learners like myself, is there an option that's going to be coming out for the new Habits of Health 2.0 book?
Yeah, so remember, it's now a system. It's not just a book, it's a system. It immediately has an app, so it's designed so that every day it's there to be with you. It's your companion. And you can do stop, challenge, and choose from it. You can do in your diary. You can do your shopping list from it. You can basically install your new habits, and then there's a continuity calendar. So right away, that's a digital thing you have with you. Second of all, the life book I want you to write in, because what we know is over time, by writing the notes you take over the next year as you're creating your new life and creating optimal health and well-being, are really important to go back to. Like you said, health and well-being doesn't occur in a straight line. We have ups and downs, and we know that. There's challenges. We're human. And so with that, now if there's an area that you were going on and you're pretty good, now you can go back to that. And then yes, not yet, because I'm just finishing this up for this first quarter. But yes, I will do an auditory version in the future, as well as we'll do a digital version.
Well, I know there's a lot of people excited about that. I know that Audible and podcasts and things like that are just so popular right now. So that's really exciting. So the next question comes from Rob. And Rob wants to know, is the BMI chart still relevant today?
It's funny because I have my brother-in-law over Thanksgiving, we were together as a family, and he was asking the same question. He goes, oh, that thing is antiquated. And I said, let me just say this to you. Bottom line is, it's not so much any absolute number. It's actually just the trend. And so let me start with this. Why BMI is such a great chart? And it's because it's free, it's easy to use, and because it's colorized, it shows you how big your risk is. So if you're in the green, bottom line is you're relatively healthy. If you just go from the yellow to the orange to the red, and by the way, I simulate that same thing in the Habits of Health system. Now, when you take your BMI and you now do your waist circumference, then it becomes much more reliable, because someone can have where they have central obesity, which means they have a lot of visceral fat, which is the unhealthy fat, or in their belly area around their organs in their midsection, and yet have a normal BMI, and yet they still have low BMI adiposity. But together you get a pretty good, and when you use your percent body fat, then you got the trifecta. And, each of those requires a little more information, right? One of them the BMI chart requires you to get on a scale and know how tall you are. The waist circumference requires a tape measure to measure right above your hips. And the percent body fat, there's all kinds of devices out there. There's the ones that use bioimpedance, which are the ones like the ARIA scale from Fitbit. And they're using electrical sense, and they're fairly accurate. If you really want accuracy, you can go into get a DEXA scan, and they actually specifically look exactly. But the point is, the BMI, whether your BMI is going up or down, and actually in the longevity sections, we actually show the sweet spot of a BMI between 24.9 and 21. Right in the middle there, between 21 and 23, is when your risk of dying in terms of from the amount of fat you have and obesity you have, is the sweet spot is between 21 and 23. So by itself, it's not fully effective, but what it is effective, it's an easy way to measure it, and the trend is what really matters.
I love that. That's such an important point, that you can't just go off of one measurement. That's why in OPTAVIA, it's really more holistic, like looking at the whole person, what's going on in a lot of these different areas. Yeah,
and by the way, for those of you that are just starting, one of the things I love about our program, when you get on the 5-in-1 and you watch people in the next couple of weeks, their skin looks better, they look healthy. Because what we're doing is we're shutting off again insulin. It clears up the pigment of their skin. Basically everything, your dermatological issues, because you're not throwing out so much waste, all those things get better, and you actually look good. Most people, when they're dieting, especially when they're starving themselves, if you look at them, they look very cachectic. And the reason for that is they're catabolizing and they're actually burning their muscle. And so the really bad part of that, not only does it weaken you on the front end, and people are asking you whether you're dying, but on the back end, what it's doing is you're lowering we're talking about body composition. The whole idea of the habits of health in OPTAVIA is over time, we go through 4 phases. And when you get into phase 3, we're focusing on actually increasing your muscle mass to the point where you are a lean, mean fighting machine, which puts you at the lowest risk for disease. So very important to maintain your percent muscle. And we do that very well by turning off insulin and not turning on burning up your fat, your muscle.
Yeah, I was reminded in the chat, one of my friends said, I love when Amber talks about her fancy BMI calculator she holds on the wall. It's like this big. It's called the mirror, Sometimes.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, one of the things I've always said, this is what I tell the clients, just to keep it that simple, is you reach, especially for the lady who was concerned about transition. When you're going through transition, get a pair of skinny jeans, right? Ones that fit, not the flexible kind that have an elastic waistband, but get yourself a pair that you look really, really good in, and then try them out every week, right? And if you have to get on the bed and do one of those, then you know that you need to be a little more vigilant.
So true. Don't get the sweats with the adjustable waist.
Yeah.
Right?
And by the way, I tell that in the story of the Habits of Health, and you've heard it 1,000 times. But as a surgical intensive care specialist and being in the OR all the time, I had scrubs, and they had drawstrings, right? I had no idea my waist was getting bigger, and all of a sudden, get out in the real world, oh my goodness, you're getting bigger, and you could just adjust those adjust them. By the way, they did a study and looked at the difference between people that wore fixed size clothes, like we're talking about, jeans that don't give versus ones that have elastic in, and 30% increase in recidivism or gaining their weight back in those that were using elastic. So it's really important to be aware. Remember, reaching and maintaining healthy weight, reaching optimal health, and creating optimal well-being is a journey. It changes over time. It's something you have to be ever vigilant of. So that's why willpower doesn't work, because your willpower will let you down. And so what we do instead is in micro habits, our little micro habits, we actually change the way your brain thinks, change your thinking, we change your feelings, how you react to the world around you. We help you adjust your surroundings, the people you're around, the environment you're in, all those things we do in little baby steps, each one of them now adding to put more plus side. It's kind of like the pros and cons of creating health in an obesogenic world. We start creating more pluses then minuses. And our whole goal is to drive. Listen, if a car is going 50 miles an hour and another car is going 50 miles an hour and they hit each other, that's a 100-mile-an-hour impact. Everybody's going to die. If you can now focus on, in micro habits, dropping the things that are not good for you and now increasing things that are good for you, the change that occurs happens rapidly. That's why the 5-in-1 is such an amazing tool. It's the catalyst that creates that teachable moment where people go, whoa, I'm feeling better, I have more energy. And so it's a very important part. That's why, yes, you can learn all this stuff and use all whole foods and measure everything and learn grams and get a little weight thing that weighs everything you have. But I got to tell you something, I'm never going to do that. I just don't have time to do that. We live in a crazy time in our lives, as you said, with your kids. My girls are in college. I'm writing books, helping build this amazing organization that we're working with the company. I just don't have time to do that. I don't prepare. Now, I have done one thing because they made it easier. I now make my own salads because until last week when they took all the lettuce away. But before that, everything comes in, it's already cut, it's pre-cut. I just open them up, dump it in the salad. I said, put that olive oil on it, vinegar, and boom, I just had 2 healthy servings of vegetables right now and there, and it's easy to do. I can even do it.
That's awesome. And I myself am glad that romaine is back on the shelves. Okay, so we probably have time for just one more question here. And earlier, you were talking about if you're brand new on the program, some of those benefits that you're going to be seeing. And that reminded me of a question that came in from Biddy. And she asked, what would be the most important tip for a beginner?
Yeah, it's consistency. It's actually, I'll use the analogy, something we're all familiar with. Every January, everybody makes these New Year's resolutions and they decide something dramatic, right? I'm going to really, I'm all in. I'm going to do this perfect. I'm going to be great. And so what they do is they say, okay, I'm going to go out and run a mile. Now they haven't gotten off their couch. They go out and run that mile, and about halfway through, they limp home and they have to call in sick of work because they have shin splints. And they say, the heck with that, I'm not doing that anymore. So that's what micro habits are about. You want to start within your ability. So one of the key things to sit down with your coach, and the question to start for almost all of us is, can you eat every 3 hours? And the answer, if we can give you a fueling that you can make in 1 to 2 minutes max, many of them you just open up and eat. But if you can do that, is that something you can do every day? And the answer is yes. You start there, and then as we say, we're going to create lifelong transformation, one healthy habit at a time. And so for a beginner, just starting, listen to your coach, start off slow. Don't judge how you do in the first few days. Give it some time, and then just do it continuous. The most important thing is do it consistently, do it every day, and over time, it will change. And make sure, eating every 3 hours is really easy using our feelings.
Okay, we do have time for one more quick one, Dr. A. This is from Julie. Diet soda, yes or no?
Well, the answer is no over time. It's not good for you, but I'm not going to ask you it goes right with the last question. We don't want to remove everything that you've been doing for a while. Remember, habits take a while to create. They're a while to break. If we ask you again to do too many things simultaneously, you're going to fail. And what we don't want you to do is fail on the primary. The one thing is the one thing, and the one thing is to eat every 3 hours, one of the fuelings, and focus on that. Of course, the thing that I teach right at the beginning with the app is also to drink your water. You need to drink your water because as your fat kind of goes away, you're emptying these fat cells that are full of all these toxins and stuff that they've stored over the years, and you need lots of water, which is a solvent that moves that stuff through your lymph system and gets it out of your body. So basically, that's what you need to do. Start off slow like that, and basically just give it time.
I love that. Well, Dr. A, we are out of time. I wish that we could just do this for several more hours. Your voice would just be gone, but.
No, I love it, and they're great questions. I learned so much tonight, and I want to thank you, Amber, and the team for all the things you guys do because this is something. Urban Meyer decided once again, if you're football fans, to quit football, right? And he basically said, "Well, I hope I can find something that can fill my days since really football because of he's got a problem with his some kind of brain thing he has going on, and I don't know what the extent is. But the point is." What he said was, I hope I can find something I love to do. And that's the thing that I so admire our team. Yeah, I had this crazy idea and the crazy doc, and they wondered what the heck I was doing. But our coaches and our leadership is that we've all we've tasted the Kool-Aid from the standpoint of we've seen so many people change their health, change their lives, bring families back together, see people make just amazing changes that were on all kinds of medications and surgery. And I can't make claims, but I will tell you, we've seen such amazing transformations because they're not based on gimmicks or fads or any get it done quick. It takes time to change your body, to change your mind. And what we're about is working together to make that a reality. So I just want to thank everybody tonight. I love you guys.
Thanks so much, Dr. A.
This audio may have contained the personal testimonials of some OPTAVIA coaches or clients of OPTAVIA. The results relayed in these messages are based on the unique experiences of the participants, and we cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. While you may be inspired by these accounts, please note that any stories of success have not been verified and your individual path to optimal health will vary. As always, it is our recommendation that you consult with a healthcare provider before starting a weight loss program. Yours in health, the OPTAVIA team.